Hello readers, I'm Amy. Getting to that point in the month, or in March, because today's March 1st when I'm filming this, where it's time to do a wrap-up. Usually I would do my half-wrapped stuff, but I've got like a month's worth of books to talk about in the next couple of videos, and I haven't done a wrap-up yet, so there's that. Also, if I'm a little bit fuzzy, apologies. I'm having some trouble with my Zoom right now that I don't know how to fix, and so I'm having to like do the manual, or not Zoom, the focus. I'm having to do manual focus so I look clear in my screen, but I might not be that clear. Anyways, I have lots of books to catch up on. I've been doing that thing where like a wrap up feels like a lot of trouble, and then I finally get around to doing it and there's just so many books to talk about. So I have actually split this up into two. I will be doing a general wrap up for end of January and February, and then I will be doing a wrap up specific for Black History Month where I will be talking about those books. So I think I need to start with Hood Feminism. Because I don't think I talked about this in my last wrap-up. This was like very tail end of January that I finally finished reading Hood Feminism. I started this for the Feminist as Fuck book club at some point last year, and I didn't get around to finishing it. And I was enjoying it. Like, this is a really excellent book, but I just was not in a nonfiction mood. And actually, as I'm talking about it now, I feel like I have mentioned it, because I'm pretty sure I talked about the artwork that I made for it, for a quote in here. But anyways, Hood Feminism, it's great. You should read it every single year. It's probably the best, hands down, the best feminism book I've ever read. Heartstopper, I'm going to talk about both of these even though there was some time in between there, but I read Heartstopper 1 and 2. I know, I don't read romance, but I also don't read graphic novels, and here I read 2 romance graphic novels. I'm blaming Hillary from Melted Books for most of this. Also a little bit of Victoria from what Victoria read, because she got me to read Get a Life, Chloe Brown. So both of you, you're to blame for this. What are you doing to me? But I read Heartstopper. It was really cute. Heartstopper I've actually owned for a little bit because I had gotten on someone's Amazon wish list and I meant to buy it for them, but something about the link wasn't right, and I ended up buying it for myself on accident, and it was a Kindle thing, so it's like I don't think I can return this. But read both of those. The first one's just kind of setting up these 2 characters. One is a gay teenager, the other one is kind of assumed to be straight, and he's starting to like explore his sexuality a little bit. So we're just kind of seeing their 2 lives and how they come together to form a friendship, and then in book 2 we're just kind of deep diving further into that, and it's so cute. I have this idea in my mind that graphic novels don't have a ton of substance because they are so short. Like, the artwork is usually great for graphic novels and the story can be interesting, but they're such short reads that I just don't really think that much about reading them, because I'm like, oh, I could spend my time on something larger with more words in it. But that's one of those personal prejudices that I need to get over and learn more about. And I'm really enjoying graphic novels right now. So I might be watching a backlist of Hillary's videos to see what other graphic novels I should be diving into. I also read Across the Greengrass Fields. This was in my anti-haul. That's not really an anti-haul. That's me trying to talk myself out of books that sound exciting. And this was the newest book in the Wayward Children series. It is one of my favorites. My favorites have always been the Jack and Jill books because they're so dark and moody, and I really liked that. And this one, it's this light, fun book. It doesn't have a very big plot. It's more character focused, but you've just got this girl who loves horses, and she goes into this world and there's unicorns there, and it was just light and fun and easy breezy, and I really enjoyed that. It's definitely one of my favorite in the series so far. I don't have that much to say about it. It's a novella, but I think it's great. Then Dominicana by Angie Cruz. This one, I remember this one being a tough read. It's not own voices, so the author, I believe, is Dominican American. but she was born and raised in America, and Dominicana is about someone moving from the Dominican Republic to America and her immigrant experience. So it's not own voices in that way. But I did enjoy it. It was a heavier book, definitely. You've got this girl who is always being kind of pushed off onto this guy. She doesn't really like him. He's over twice her age, but he's the opportunity that the family has to get into America. So she's gonna have to marry him. And they get married and takes her over to America, and she's trying to adjust to life in this huge city where she doesn't speak the language. She doesn't really have an opportunity to go out because she's just kind of left in this apartment alone all day. And it was a great book, a great story, and it was awesome to see all of the character development through this. Again, it's way more character focused. I feel like I've read a lot of character focused books lately. But throughout the book, it's like I constantly have to remind myself, this girl is 15. And later on, like, this girl is 16. And she's been pushed off onto this guy in his 30s because he goes to America. And it was gross and it was interesting, and I really want to learn more about those immigrant experiences and be like, how based on true life is this, especially now in the 2020s? Like, how and why do people still have to have these experiences? Definitely something I need to read more about and become more knowledgeable on. I can see that being like a really hard-hitting topic that I really dive into a lot. Next one, I Do It With the Lights On. This is when I really started diving into the nonfiction. I think I Do It With the Lights On is the one that got me into my nonfiction, like, it got me out of my slump, and for some reason nonfiction was getting me out of my slump. Again, I feel like I might have talked about this book before. It's been a while since I've done a wrap-up, so if I'm repeating some books here, forgive me. I Do It With the Lights On was written by Whitney Way Thor. She has a television show on TLC, My Big Fat Fabulous Life, I think. And in this book, she's talking about her history with her weight and her eating disorders, and she shows pictures of herself throughout time, and I'm like, you are not a big girl by any means. Like, I don't know what these kids were latching onto to tease her about, but it's kind of the way of growing up, unfortunately. You hit puberty and people get mean. But if you're interested in stories having to do with body weight and body positivity and talking about eating disorders, this would be a good one to dive into. The Graveyard Apartment. This was not a life-changing book for me, but this really turned the tide. The Graveyard Apartment, for some reason, I just wasn't thinking of it as a haunted house book, even though it is a haunted house book. But I'm like, oh, it's an apartment, not a house. And it's written by a Japanese author, and I was thinking that it was a fairly recent book because I've been seeing it a little more here and there. But it was actually written in the 1980s, which really just makes me want to dive more into that, and just, I want to do like a video essay or something on translated books and how long it takes to do that translation. But this is a haunted house book where you've got this apartment, it's got like this creepy basement, and between watching Devil? Was it Devil? And there was another one I watched recently with two people in an elevator who find out each other's secrets, and reading The Graveyard Apartment. Like, I kind of never want to ride an elevator again. You've got these people who live on like the 8th floor of this apartment, and the elevator goes down to the basement, but the stairs don't, and it's this whole thing, and I'm like, don't get in the elevator! Obviously. I'm just like, I don't care if you live on the 8th floor, I don't care if you live on the 15th. The characters in this story were able-bodied and were perfectly capable of walking up the stairs to their floor. It is not worth taking the elevator when the elevator is the only way out of the basement and the basement is creepy. It was also a lot longer than I was thinking it was going to be. I felt like it was supposed to be this 300-page horror novel, and it was like 500 pages. And again, it was really character-driven. There was a strong plot, but it was a very slow-moving plot. And there's so many elements to this book that just should not have worked for me. Haunted house stories are notoriously bad for me, as both books and movies. For whatever reason, they don't work. The book was very slow. It was very character driven. But something about this book just hooked me. I think a lot of it was the characters, like learning about the characters' pasts and their concerns in the present and their relationships with the people around them. I'm like, I want to know what happens with this family in this apartment. I want to know how this turns out. And then the ending. A little spoilery for the ending. I'm not going to tell you like what happens, but I guess people are talking about how if you say that there's a twist at the ending, or if you say that it has an open ending, that's a spoiler. I don't consider that a spoiler personally, but I mean, that is very much my own opinion. But it has an ending that is a kind of ending that I tend to love and hate at the same time, because it can be so frustrating when it happens, but it's like a good frustration, because you're like, it's a satisfied frustration. Does that make any sense? Satisfyingly frustrated. That's how I ended The Graveyard Apartment. Hopefully that makes sense to someone out there. Actually, that might be pretty much it for this wrap up, because the other books that I finished that I have to talk about are for Black History Month, and I want to do kind of like a dedicated video for those. So, cool. This was less stressful than I thought it would be. Hopefully I didn't repeat books too much, because I'm getting such a hard case of deja vu right now, and I feel like I've talked about half of these books in a previous wrap-up. But it's been so long since I filmed a wrap-up, it's like, I'm just going to talk about them. And if you have to sit through it, I guess you have to sit through it, or you can skip forward on the timeline. I don't know. Anyways, that's it for me right now. I'm kind of tired. It's been a long morning already. But please like, subscribe, be my friend on social media. And I'm going to see all of you in my next video. Bye, friends.